Well, I'm Bill Southern. A lot of you may know me from NuggetShooter.com and the forums at NuggetShooter.com. I've been hunting the deserts of central Arizona now for probably close to 20 years, or maybe a little longer. Starting out with PLF detectors. And through a horror story, I ended up with PIs because I was dumb enough to challenge somebody with a PI to go to one of my gold bug patches and show me what a PI detector could do. And that was Minelab 2200, and I haven't looked back since. I've been using PIs from that day forward. And I lost a lot of gold showing him that spot.
My name is Rob Donaldson with Rob's Detector Cells. And, I'm out of Surprise, Arizona. I have the website NuggetShooter.com, and like Bill, I also have a forum. I think between me and Bill and Chris's forum, we probably have the most traffic online. Like Bill said, I've been prospecting also for nearly 20 years. I started out when I was younger, probably 20 years old. I started out panning, doing all the stuff, the panning, the dredging, the dry washing, all that. And it wasn't until I met a guy named Richard Doherty. Some of you guys probably know him, but he's long gone now. A guy that used to do a lot of melee technique, and he kind of started me out under his wing as far as showing me what to do, how to find nuggets, and how to be successful. So I've been electronic prospecting now probably almost 20 years, and the last 15 years solely with the Minelab melee detector. So basically, we're going to just open it up, Bill and I. If anybody has any questions on Minelab detectors, coils, prospecting, what to look for, basically any kind of general questions. We don't want to get too technical, but we'll answer more of the general type stuff. If it's something we can't answer, we'll try to find the answer for somebody. Terry?
In your experience between the two of you, especially down by Rich Hill, what 3 coils would you recommend to a Minelab hunter?
You want to answer? I'll answer. That's a good question. As you know, Rich Hill is a pretty rough terrain. It's basically a granite mountain, basically an uplifted granite, a lot of boulders, and like I think Doc was talking about earlier with the little coil.
That I didn't have.
It depends on where you're at on Rich Hill, I guess, because there are flat open areas. There's also areas that are really tight where there's boulders piled up everywhere. So to answer your question, Terry, I'd probably say, for those tight areas, it'd be a small coil, whether it's a little Minelab Commander 8-inch round, which is really sensitive coil. The Coil Tech Joey, I've had a lot of success with that. Sometimes with the Joey a little bit more because you can you can crevice in between the rocks. And sometimes you'll find better nuggets with a small coil, and Doc is here to testify for this, is that when you can take a small coil, you got an area that's just strewn filled with boulders, and you can't get a big coil within those boulders, and some of the boulders are just high. If you're able to take your little Joey or even a little 8-inch and crevice down in there, now you gain this much depth over a bigger coil that would have to climb over all those rocks. So to answer that question, I'd definitely say a small coil, which would be a little Joey. Even the Coil Tech makes a little 6-inch now. It just depends on how small you want to go, but just a little coil where you can crevice. And a mid-sized coil, and I think you really only need 3 coils. I don't really think you need 25 coils, and it's all preference. I'm not going to tell you what to go out and buy, but I think if you have 3 coils, a small coil, a mid-sized coil that's around that 14, 16 range, and preferably a 14, that's what I like to use. And then a larger coil, like for a specialty coil, for larger open areas, and also places you're going to look for more depth, where nuggets might be a little bit deeper. So basically 3 coils: small coil, mid-sized coil, and a larger coil to cover more ground and more depth.
To add what Rob's saying on coils, a lot of your coil choices is going to be dependent on the ground you're hunting.
Right.
And it's basically where you're going with that. In the boulder strewn areas of Rich Hill, a lot of the areas up there, the dirt's no deeper than this, and you got granite underneath.
Right.
You get down the little washes, some of it maybe 18, 20 inches. You get down on the flats there, you've got red dirt sometimes this deep. That would be one of the areas he's saying you want to use a 14 or larger coil. Again, that's dependent on how much boulders and shrubs and whatnot you have on the ground. I mean, getting the depth out of a 14, 16 inch coil is worthless if you got to lift it up this far above the ground every time. So there again, you might want to go to a smaller coil and get in between the cracks if you're not going to sit there and roll boulders.
So say 6, 14, and
Maybe 18, 20.
Yeah, 18 inch, something big for those big areas. The bigger coils we call specialty coils. Doc has a load of them, Chris has a load of them, Minelab goes up to an 18. So if you want to get bigger, you either got to go with Coil Tech or Nugget Finder. Both are excellent coils. Those are specialty coils though. There again, you can't use it just anywhere. If you've got an area that's wide open, you don't have any rocks bigger than this tall, that big coil is going to serve you well. You're going to get what it's supposed to do for you. You've got to keep lifting it up over rocks and fighting with brush. you're wasting your time. You might have to go back to a 14-inch elliptical or something like Rob was just talking about, where you can get in those little tight spots. And are you missing gold? If the dirt's deep, you might be. But if you can't get a big coil over that nugget anyway, you might miss the ones you could have got with a small nugget.
But looking back, what's some of the biggest mistakes you think you're making as a beginner you didn't talk about?
Probably the biggest mistakes that I see, especially when I take guys out for field instruction, and I'm sure Bill sees the same thing. First thing I see is, there's a lot of different things, but one of the things is research. People don't spend enough time researching areas and researching where gold, and somebody covered this earlier on one of the speeches. Matter of fact, I think it was Doc when he was talking about an area that produced millions of ounces of gold, but then to come find out that that particular deposit was all fine gold. And that's what I tell people, the most important thing, if you're out looking for nuggets, you have to go where nuggets have been found, or at least in those areas, because there's certain geological areas that favor pocket-type gold, and gold that's actually massive enough to make a nugget. I mean, you could go into areas like, for example, Carlin, Nevada, produce millions and millions of ounces of gold, but you have forums, you have the internet in general to search stuff, books, there's mapping programs now. You could use Google Earth, and integrate that with claim software. I mean, there's so many things now that a new guy can use as tools that we never had. I mean, us, it was just get out there and a process of elimination, and I'll talk about that a little bit later too. But I mean, it was just, hunt here, hunt there, and hope you found something. So I mean, like I said, there's a lot of tools now that are out there for the new 1,300 ounce. To go out there and find 3, 4, or 5 small nuggets a day or a weekend is not hard to do. And those, and that might be a 1/4 ounce of gold, maybe it's a 1/2 ounce of gold, maybe one day it's only a pennyweight worth of gold. But overall, the price of gold today, I mean, it's worth finding all those small. Everybody says, "Oh, I want to find big gold." Well, hell, everybody, I want to find big gold. Bill wants to find big gold. You guys want to find big gold, but the reality is, you're not going to go out there every day and pick up 1+ ounces. It's just not going to happen. Not that you can't find a spot or a patch that has a bunch in there, but it's not going to happen every day.
Well, unless you're Rob, I've seen him find an incredible number of big nuggets.
But it's just, it's just a matter of going out there and the little ones is the beans and bacon. Like the old timers said, the old timers weren't looking for the big nuggets. They were looking for the consistent fine gold and small nuggets, little flakes. That's what kept them going. That's what's going to keep you guys going as a successful nugget hunter, is being able to find and target all those little tiny nuggets. And the advantage now, talking about like the new machines, like Chris and we're talking about the timings, is that new fine gold timing. Me and Bill both been using that with phenomenal success, in high mineralized areas. So, as technology gets better, we're able to find smaller gold at depth, larger gold at depth. So
1 gram nugget right now at 12 to 14 inches.
Yeah.
Solid 1 gram nugget is not a problem.